When I say a word like energy, what is your relationship around sales success and the energy that you bring to the sales conversation?
I think, look, tone is everything, and tone comes from your energy. And this is not just for cold calling, it's for anything. I mean, there's a lot of like, mirroring and things like that. And so you should mirror your prospect. However, I guarantee you that depressed people don't want to talk to other depressed people. If you sound depressed, they're not going to want to talk to you, even if they're depressed themselves. Like, so I think that bringing a little of energy, bringing like, I call it upbeat. You don't want to sound like the happiest dog in the yard, because that might be turning off some prospects. But you start neutral, but it should be upbeat. But even when I get rejected, I'll be like, yeah, cool, it's fine. Like have a good day. I can't remember a call where I didn't say someone have a good day, right? It's just, you want to have that positive influence on the world. The person, even if they reject you, they should feel happy about having had the call with you. And that's the part, like, I always want to leave, like for example, we had the comedy show, and some of the people leaving comments, like, they were saying something about being rude to prospects. I'm like, no, guys, like, this is the opposite of why we're doing this. We don't want to belittle a prospect. We want them to have a good time. And if the prospect has a good time, they're more likely to want to talk to me anyway.
Yep. That little piece around every call gives you an opportunity to leave somebody better off is, I think, really close to the essence of what we talk about on Selling with Love. So I'm glad you've mentioned that. And this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the show. We've given a teaser for people. So we've talked about, the beginning steps of doing this kind of outreach, right? Doing a cold call is like, hey, you got to get some attention. You want to qualify, be very honest up front, being like, is this a cold call? And lead with the no answer, because and I think this comes, I remember Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss guy.
Chris Voss, exactly.
It's so empowering for somebody to be able to know that they can say no, so they feel more in control, and then there's more comfort, guards go down, all that good stuff. So your openers are designed to say, hey, let's get them maybe to laugh a little bit, get them to realize you're a human and not just a generic salesperson. But then you said the next thing is you're trying to identify if there's actually a problem. And I wanted to understand, like, what does that process look like, and what are key things I should keep in mind that allows me to have that discovery?
Okay. So look, I'm going to hit hard on sales trainers here on one thing that I've learned in my previous company. And we were talking about feature advantages and benefits. Right. And we were talking about open questions. We weren't allowed to ask closed questions. And I'm going to beat on both right now, in the sense that the best pitch these days is a problem-based pitch. The simple reason is that because psychologically, so this is not like the thing I hate the most about sales books is that sales books are frameworks. Hey, use the FBC, ABC, whatever crap. Frameworks that I can't think of a framework that survived time, apart from maybe Sandler, who's based on psychology, Gap, who's also based on psychology, and Spin, who's also based on psychology. So some of these are actually based on psychology, and not all of it is. So if you're combining psychology doesn't change. The way the human mind works, it'll take thousands of years for that to evolve, because it's taken the last 100,000 years for the human brain to become what it is now. So the problems, like, human beings are problem detectors. You're constantly thinking about problems because for thousands of years, if you weren't, you would die. So people that didn't look at risks, a problem, they just didn't survive. Therefore, you don't have their DNA in you. Very simple. So you want to start leading with problems, but you can't be like, do you face this problem? Because if people were happy to admit their problems, everyone would go to therapy. But they don't. Everyone would have happy relationships, but they don't. People don't want to talk about their problems, but they tend to do so a bit more happily if they realize their peers face the same problems. This is why AA works very well, because you're not sharing your horrible story alone in front of people that will judge. You're sharing with other people that have gone through the same as you. That's why therapy works, because you're in a safe space. So the idea is to start with, let's say you're calling IT directors and you're selling cyber. So you want to prove, like, look, I talk to a lot of IT directors of consulting companies on a daily basis. So they'll think, peers. What they've been telling us is that they face problem A, problem B, sometimes I want to add problem C, and the consequences of these problems. And I want to phrase them, the way I put this is in the way in which they bitch about it at the coffee machine with their colleagues or with their partner at dinner. So I want to use that language because I want them to think like, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, is that a common thing? Oh, and that if you get them to have that moment, it's no longer a cold call. That push is turning into pull. Because they'll be like, well, okay, but what can you do? The moment they say that, you are already technically meeting territory. Because like technically the person is like expressing enough curiosity. So the logic is to go with these. And I personally am a big fan is that instead of closing with, do you face either of these problems? Which again is a sales question. And it's going to get them a bit, I go the opposite way, which again is based on Chris Voss, which is the negative framing. But you might tell me you've got the best cybersecurity in the world, and honestly, not even Elon Musk could penetrate your whatever, right? So I'm making it a bit ridiculous. Again, I want them to laugh a little bit. Sometimes I'll go back to the opener, but you're gonna tell me you've got the best cyber security in the country, and you're gonna throw your phone out the window. Right, so I'm using a little bit of comedy. And that's the part where like, if you do your job right, if your pitch is good, if your list is good, 1 time out of 3, out of 4, the person will go like, gone. The person will be like, yeah, okay, yeah, there are common problems. And that's when you know that you got someone biting. The other times they'll give you objections. Like probably like another 60% of the time they'll give you an objection. And then sometimes you'll be like, nah, no interest, goodbye. Done. Also, by the way, this widely changes depending on the countries. Because I love sometimes I see on LinkedIn people that only call in like France or like Dubai or like easy markets. And they'll be like, oh, just do this. It's like, no, that doesn't work in UK or US because they are savages. They get so many calls.
Wait. Why? What makes the UK and US different?
It's just the saturation. You get, and this is why the more you are in a saturated market, the more you gotta be extremely like standing out and very careful with your pitch. Like I recently started selling to Dubai just because it's seems to be a good market, and I actually had to simplify my pitch like crazy because they're not gonna hang up on me. They're like, yeah, go on, tell me. And then I need to make it very clear because the old problem-based pitch is perhaps too complicated. Plus, not all of them are native English speakers, etc. But and on the flip side, I have a guy that like I really like. He follows me. He's learned my frameworks and he's Italian. His meeting rate is like 20-25%, which is insane. And it's just because Italians are easy to cold call. You gotta get them off the phone. That's the problem.
I mean, don't mention Ferrari in the conversation. You'll never get them off.
They won't believe you anyway.
Yeah, well, hey, I got Charles Leclerc as my double points on the pool. So for those who know. So this is very interesting because looking at intercountry kind of discrepancies is maybe something people don't take into consideration. I'd be curious, since I am based in Southeast Asia, I feel like Southeast Asia is probably a beast of its own, completely different from any other market. Do you have any experience there? Or is there any like 2 cents you would share there?
I don't specifically. I've had a couple of conversations because I think Southeast Asia, the only conversation I've had with people selling to Singapore, selling to Australia. So Australia, for example, I hear is a really soft market, meaning that people are quite keen to talk. Singapore is a bit harder. Japan is apparently very challenging, which is not entirely surprising. And then it depends, but like perhaps like Thailand, Thai to Thai, or like I wouldn't know. I just wouldn't know how that dynamic works.
So it sounds like you're in the roughnecks in the hardest parts of the UK and the US. That's where you get that's where you earn your belts, right? But you also talked about how and how do I frame this? You're going in, you're using these negative frameworks to get people to be like, okay, no, I don't have the best in the world, and then once they've made that admission, like at this point, you're just going and saying like, okay, well, it sounds like, because you're not trying to pitch the product on a cold call, right? Your objective is actually very different. You're trying to get a meeting for a proper space to have that conversation. At least that's how I think about it. And I just want to make sure that I got it right.
Yeah. So at that point, this is what I call like, premature ejaculation, right? In sales. All right. And so like, oh, there's a problem. Oh, we have a live one. Yeah, let's book a meeting. No. I actually, like, there's a lot of stats, and I've been trained by some really good cold callers, that the We Have a Meeting guys, Jack and Zach. I recommend you talk to them as well, by the way. And they run a lead gen company, and I've also had my own clients. And interestingly, the best quality meetings are US and UK, which are, again, hard markets, almost always over 10 minutes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.